Hello, and welcome to my course on the Polish short stories. My name is Jack Hutchins. I'm a lecturer of Polish literature and culture at Loyola University Chicago. This is a course that I developed at Loyola as a hybrid course, partly in person, partly online. And then when the pandemic hit, we were forced to, all teachers were forced to go completely online. And this class really easily transitioned into that kind of course since it was already a hybrid course. So I've had the videos that you'll see on this channel for a while, and I thought, well, might as well put them on YouTube, see if anyone else is interested in Polish literature and culture. So you notice the dates, I don't start until 1800. So this is not a complete history of Polish literature. It's about the Polish short stories specifically. And prose fiction, not just in Poland, but in most European traditions, starts pretty late. Don Quixote isn't written until the 17th century. And so we, before that, in many traditions, you get mostly poetry or epic or drama, or things written in Latin, so not the vernacular language of a specific culture. So we start at 1800 then. We start with the Romantics, the Polish Romantics, Adam Mickiewicz, Juliusz Słowacki, and Zygmunt Krasiński. Now, if you know much about Romanticism, it's mostly poetry and drama, so it's a kind of odd that we start with the three bards of Polish Romanticism, but they wrote some short stories as well, and so we'll start there. And again, and as you'll see in my lectures, we start at a time when there is no Poland. Poland was erased completely from the map in 1795 and wouldn't appear on the map again until 1918. So much of the literature we read will be literature written at a time when Poland as such did not exist. So we'll then move on to the positivists near the end of the 19th century into 20th a little bit. And their program was very much an anti-romantic program. They wanted a different kind of philosophy than one of armed resistance, which ended in three terrible failures for Polish people. The different uprisings of the time saw the expulsion of Poland's elite, Poland's intellectual elite. And so the positivists wanted to try something different. And they a lot of their philosophy is kind of reminiscent, very much borrowed from a lot of the time from utilitarianism. So if you know much about the history of philosophy, this will be familiar to you. We then move on to Young Poland. Young Poland is one of many young movements from around Europe. There was Young Germany, there was Young Scandinavia. In Western Europe, this sometimes gets called, Art Nouveau or Fin de siècle movements. There are lots of different names for this type of era, but it's really marked by a lot of experimentation in art, in life, in philosophies, and especially the especially the Young Poland movement is very much a rejection of the Polish positivists. They kind of saw positivism as a surrender to the three powers that had divided Poland up. But the Young Poland movement was kind of divided into two camps, the Decadents and the Neo-Romantics. The Decadents were very much influenced by Nietzsche, especially. They have this kind of strand of nihilism in some of the works. The Neo-Romantics, again, it basically means new romanticism. They weren't the Romantics, but they were more inspired by the Romantics. What really is similar between the two camps is the rejection of positivism. So, and you'll see this in their works. We then move on to the interwar period, and here we began a trend that doesn't have a trend really. So before this time, we kind of divide, the history of literature up into these major movements or philosophies like Romanticism, Positivism, or earlier Enlightenment and whatnot. But beginning around this time, you can't really say there's one large overarching artistic or literary philosophy. There are many schools of thought on how to create art and what art should do. So it's really we can only really talk about a historical period at this time. There's not much in the way of a definitive program in the literature of the time. And then from the interwar period, we go into literature written during the communist era of Poland. So communism was about 50 years. Communist rule took about 50 years in Poland, beginning after World War II and ending in around 89, 90. So a lot of the stuff I have you read, a lot of it is really against communism. Literature that somehow got published even during, even with censorship in communist Poland, and somehow it got published, which is really kind of strange that some of the more famous works come out at a time when they should have been censored. But there was always ways of breaking through the censors and whatnot, getting around them in some way. So we deal with the communist era for a while, and then we begin the post-communist era and the 1990s. So what we might call the transition or post-transition period. And we end with an author named Olga Tokarczuk, who won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2018. So she is one of the most famous Polish. She's probably the most famous Polish author of the last few decades. She actually, I could show you this huge monster of a book. So this is her most I think this might, no, it's not quite her most recent, but it's one of her most recent books. It's been translated in English, but it is a monster. And to be honest, I still haven't read it. So it's on my reading list one of these days when I have more free time. So that's, I'm going to end with a little caveat. The lectures can be a little boring. It's just me sitting in front of the computer with headphones in. They're informative. I'll give that to myself, that they are informative. They're a little boring, a little dry. But if you're looking for some information, if you're looking for some points of discussion about Polish literature, I think I provide that pretty well. So I hope you enjoy this course. Please feel free to give me feedback, ask questions, whatever in the comments. Keep it civil. I know my lectures are boring. You don't have to bring that up again. But I hope you enjoy the course, and I hope you learn something about Poland and Polish culture that you didn't know before. So thank you.